The day the silence ended. A fleet of legends materialized after humanity's strike, leaving the galaxy without a response. The rules governing the stars were never written on paper. Every species knew them by heart, because every species had learned them the hard way long before humans ever looked up at the night sky and wondered what was out there. The first rule was simple: power decided everything. If a species possessed strong ships, many colonies, and ancient technology passed down for thousands of years, that species had a voice. If a species lacked these things, it had no voice at all, forced to listen, obey, and hope the strong were feeling kind. The second rule followed the first. New species were weak by definition. It did not matter how smart they were, how fast they grew, or how many good ideas they had. A species that had only walked among the stars for a few hundred years could not compete with empires that had ruled entire star systems for tens of thousands of years. The old empires commanded fleets built from vanished metals, wielded weapons drawn from generations of research, and carried habits of war passed down like family stories. Humanity broke both of these rules, though nobody in the galaxy noticed at first. Extinct species, each one told a story of hubris, disaster, or simple bad luck. Humanity's story was different. They hadn't died slowly, they had simply stopped. The Cascade, the Galactic historians called it, nearly 1,000 years ago, something had broken. Every faster-than-light drive in the galaxy had failed simultaneously. Ships hung dead in the void between stars. Communication networks went silent. Colonies found themselves cut off from their home worlds, separated by distances that would take centuries to cross at normal speed. Most civilizations recovered eventually. Engineers worked for decades to understand what happened and build new drives. The Kalari Dominion rose during those dark years, offering protection and technology to struggling worlds. The Covenant of Stars formed to prevent another such disaster. But humanity never came back online. Their colonies and other systems either integrated with alien neighbors or died out completely. Earth itself went dark. No signals, no ships, no contact. After a century of silence, the galaxy declared humanity extinct and moved on. Kale then had never accepted that conclusion. Something about humanity's disappearance felt incomplete, like a story missing its final chapter. Dr. Wren's voice carried a strange tone. "You should see this," Wren said. She turned from the viewport and moved to the scanning station. The holographic display showed the inner system with rocky planets orbiting close to the sun. Between the fourth and fifth planets lay a belt of asteroids, exactly where the old human charts said it would be. "What am I looking at?" Kale then asked. Wren manipulated the controls, and the image zoomed in on a cluster of objects near the fourth planet. They appeared to be artificial structures, ancient satellites in high orbit, standard debris from a dead civilization. "These are old defense platforms," Wren explained. "Human military installations from before the Cascade. They've been dead for centuries." He paused, and his scales shifted to an uncertain yellow. "Except the technology we didn't fully understand. When it broke, we broke with it." She stood and walked to the observation wall. "We decided we wouldn't make that mistake again. We would take our time, rebuild properly, understand our technology from the ground up." "And now," Kale then prompted. "Now we're ready." Admiral Chen turned back to face them. "We've spent 1,000 years learning patience, precision, and self-reliance. We've developed technologies the galaxy hasn't seen because we had to solve problems without outside help. We've prepared." Wren spoke up, his voice tentative. "Prepared for what?" Chen smiled again, and this time there was steel in it. "To return to the stars. Not as the desperate, overconfident species we were before, but as something better, something stronger." She walked back to the table and placed her hands on its surface. Dr. Kale, then, you came here looking for a dead civilization. Instead, you found one that refused to die. Now the question is, what will you tell the galaxy about us? Kale then looked at the humans, then noticed a young technician holding up a small reactor proudly. The device glowed with contained power, stable and controlled. Chen moved on, and they followed. We couldn't fix the faster-than-light drives immediately, so we focused on what we could do: sublight propulsion, energy generation, life support, material science. Every field of technology has been refined over centuries of careful work. But why hide? Kale then asked the question that had been bothering her since she arrived. Even if you weren't ready to travel faster than light, you could have sent messages. The galaxy would have helped you. Chen stopped walking and turned to face them. Her expression was complicated, mixing sadness with determination. Doctor, do you know what happened to the human colonies after the cascade, the ones in other star systems? Kale then nodded slowly. Some integrated with alien civilizations, others died out. And the ones that integrated, Chen said quietly, what happened to them, to their culture? They walked through sports complexes and virtual reality facilities before returning to the observation room where they had started. The sun was setting on the surface far above, and the dim light filtering down through the ocean created an ethereal atmosphere. You've shown us so much, Kale then said, but I still don't understand something. You say you're ready to return to the stars, but you don't have faster-than-light drives. How can you rejoin galactic civilization? Chen walked to the observation window and looked out at the underwater city. For a long moment, she didn't speak. When she did, her voice carried absolute confidence. We've been building toward this moment for 1,000 years, Doctor. We have ships that can reach nearby stars in decades rather than centuries. We have technology that the galaxy hasn't seen. We have 12 million humans who are trained, prepared, and absolutely united in purpose. She turned to face them. We don't need faster-than-light drives to make an impact. We just need the galaxy to know we exist. That's why you let us find you. Across the wider cosmos, quantity and unknowns were dangerous. In the organic hive cities of the Sith Collective, there was confusion and concern. The Sith had absorbed several human colonies after the cascade, integrating those populations into their society. Those humans, or rather their descendants, had become Sith in culture, if not biology. Now there were other humans claiming to represent humanity. Which group had the right to speak for the species? The Quellan free traders saw opportunity. A civilization that had developed unique technology in isolation would have things to sell, things to buy. Markets could be opened, profits made. But beneath all the various reactions ran a current of unease. A species had hidden from the galaxy for a millennium. What else might be hiding? What other assumptions about the universe might be wrong? The Covenant Council called an emergency summit on Harmony's Edge, the great space station that served as neutral ground for all member species. Every major civilization sent representatives. What existed before the cascade is gone, Chen explained during a session. We're something else now. We kept the good parts, our curiosity, our creativity, our stubborn refusal to give up. But we added new things: patience, humility, the understanding that cooperation is stronger than competition. Human philosophy is spreading, Kale then observed. The idea that survival requires community, that technology should be shared, that strength comes from unity, it's changing how species interact with each other. Good, Chen said. That's the real gift we can offer. Not just better drives or stronger materials, but a different way of thinking about our place in the universe. They stood in silence for a while, watching ships come and go. Each one carried cargo, passengers, ideas. Each one represented connections between worlds, between species, between cultures. What will you do now? Kale then asked. "You've achieved everything you set out to accomplish." Chen smiled. "Retire, probably. Let younger voices lead humanity's next chapter. I've done my part bringing us back from silence, establishing our place in the covenant, sharing our greatest achievements. Now it's time for the next generation to build on that foundation." "Will you return to Earth?" Kale then asked. "Eventually, but first I think I'll visit some of the places I've only seen through sensors. The Vin home world, the Quellan markets, maybe even Kalari space if they'll have me." She laughed. "I spent 1,000 years of human history watching the galaxy from a distance. Now I want to experience it firsthand." In the years that followed, humanity continued its steady expansion. New colonies established themselves on dozens of worlds. Human ships, now equipped with improved faster-than-light drives developed through joint initiatives, traveled freely throughout Covenant space. Human scientists collaborated with alien researchers on projects that pushed the boundaries of knowledge. But perhaps most importantly, human philosophy spread. The lessons learned during 1,000 years of survival, prioritizing cooperation over conflict. Years before, reading between the lines of old galactic documents, careful language and gaps where information should have been revealed a darker history. Words like unanticipated escalation and disproportionate response appeared again and again, but never any real explanation of what those words actually meant. What became clear was that the first real encounters between humanity and the wider galaxy had not gone the way anyone expected. Something had happened, something bad enough that within a single generation, an entire council of galactic powers had come together and agreed unanimously to seal humanity behind a dense nebula they called the Thrillic Veil. It was a quarantine, not because humans were too weak to be part of galactic society, but because according to the whispers from older officers, they were the opposite of weak in ways nobody wanted to test again. After that, the silence had settled in. No human ship crossed the veil, no human voice answered any hail for generations, and humanity simply became a story told to young officers to keep them sharp. When alien crews directly encountered human vessels, they made their own judgment separate from generations of careful, fearful rumor. Word of these engagements spread well beyond Concord and Dominion space within the following year, carried along trade routes and diplomatic channels until it reached governments far removed from the Thrillic Veil. Civilizations that had perhaps only ever heard the vaguest second-hand rumors about humanity's existence. Major galactic shifts followed. Several smaller independent powers, species too small to maintain significant military forces of their own, began quietly establishing contact protocols aimed at the edges of human space, hoping to position themselves favorably should humanity ever choose to expand its presence more broadly across the galaxy. Larger, more established empires responded with considerably more caution, reinforcing border defenses near the perimeter. Yet there was no invasion. There was no conquest, no grand declaration of intent, no sweeping campaign to reclaim territory or assert dominance over species who had spent generations trying to forget humanity ever existed. There was only a single ship, answering a single distress call, doing exactly what it had been built and crewed to do, regardless of the empire standing in its way. And perhaps that, more than anything else, is the truth the rest of the galaxy now has to quietly sit with. We did not fear humanity because they sought to conquer us. We feared them because when finally given the chance to act on their own terms again after so long behind that wall of dust and silence, the very first thing they chose to do was save people none of the rest of us had even bothered to notice were in danger at all. If that was simply an ordinary Tuesday for them, then somewhere out there beyond a border, the galaxy had spent generations pretending did not need watching, An entire species capable of so much more was waiting. During an emergency diplomatic assembly, President Volkov pressed a control, and the screens behind her changed. Now they showed Earth, not the gleaming cities and peaceful farms, but images from humanity's past. "This is Earth 800 years ago," Volkov said. "We call this period World War II. In 6 years, humans killed over 70 million of each other. We invented weapons that could destroy entire cities in seconds. We built factories whose only purpose was murder. We committed atrocities that still haunt our collective memory." The images changed again. More wars, more weapons, more death. "This is World War I, 20 million dead in 4 years. We used poison gas on each other. We shot our own soldiers for refusing to run into machine gun fire. We invented tanks, aircraft combat, and submarine warfare." Another change. Medieval battles, ancient sieges, tribal warfare. For 10,000 years before we reached space, humans were in nearly constant conflict. We fought over territory, resources, religion, politics, and sometimes just because we didn't like each other. We built weapons from stone, bronze, iron, steel, and eventually atoms. We wrote books about war strategy. We made killing each other into an art form. In the Concordance Chamber, a small alien species called the Pricel began accessing human historical databases. Their researcher had been curious about human evolution, but now, watching the presentation, he dug deeper into the records. What he found made his primary hearts beat faster. They fought each other for 10,000 years, his supervisor whispered over their private channel. How did they survive? "That's not the disturbing part," the researcher replied, pulling up more data. "Look at the casualty counts. Look at how fast they recovered after wars that killed tens of millions. They rebuilt in decades and started fighting again. They kept getting better at it." On the main display, Volkov was still speaking. "We bombed our own cities. We poisoned our own water. We created diseases to use against each other. We split atoms and harnessed the power of stars specifically to make weapons." When diplomatic treaties collapsed, President Volkov issued a single order. "War protocols activated, time to show them who we are." Across human space, humans who had been farmers, traders, and teachers received their messages. They went to storage facilities they'd hoped never to open. They pulled out weapons and armor that had been packed away as relics of a barbaric past. They remembered training they'd done just in case, training they'd thought would never be needed. In the Concordance Chamber, the Pricel researcher finally finished reviewing human history. He turned to his supervisor, his small body trembling. "We made a terrible mistake," he said quietly, "all of us. We thought they were like us, that they'd evolved past violence, but they didn't evolve past it. They chose to set it aside, and we just gave them a reason to pick it back up." On Earth, President Volkov watched the Concordance feed for a moment longer, then turned it off. She had one more call to make. Admiral Chen answered immediately. "Madam President, the fleet is ready." Across human space, weapons designers pulled out old files, concepts that had been shelved as too aggressive for a peaceful species. They dusted them off and put them into production. Nuclear-pumped lasers, relativistic kill missiles, autonomous hunter drones. Weapons that had been deemed uncivilized were now deemed necessary. A Concordance observer named Telix had been assigned to monitor human military buildup. Telix was supposed to report on potential threats, but what he found terrified him. He sent his first report 3 weeks after humanity's withdrawal. "Human industrial capacity far exceeds estimates," he wrote. "They've converted 70% of civilian production to military purposes in less than 1 month. Shipyard construction has increased by 400%. Weapons production is unprecedented." In a second report, Telix detailed the frightening structural realities of human ships. "These are not ships designed for quick battles," he wrote. "These are ships designed for wars of attrition, ships built by a species that expects to be hurt but refuses to die." His third report highlighted their fundamental philosophy. Human weapons systems show a fundamental philosophical difference from Concordant's military technology. We build weapons to disable ships, to achieve victory with minimal loss of life. Human weapons are designed to kill. Their missiles don't just penetrate hulls, they detonate inside to maximize damage. Their cannons don't just breach armor, they fragment into shrapnel that destroys internal systems. Every weapons system asks the same question: how do we make this more lethal? Telix watched a test firing of a human railgun. The projectile moved so fast it was invisible. It hit the target asteroid and simply erased it, turning solid rock into expanding debris. "They used to use these on each other," he whispered to himself, "on their own species." In the Concordance chamber, his reports were read and dismissed by leaders who assumed humans could not wage war. "We were all catastrophically wrong," Telix noted. "These are the same humans who fought themselves for 10,000 years, the same humans who built weapons powerful enough to destroy their own world. They just stopped using those skills. Now they've remembered." When the Caldrec's first defense fleet detected human ships 3 hours before they arrived, Fleet Commander Vries reviewed the sensor data with what passed for amusement among his species. 600 human vessels approached in loose formation. Primitive, blocky ships that looked like cargo haulers with guns attached. "They're bringing their entire fleet," his tactical officer reported. "Should we alert the second and third fleet?" Vries made a clicking sound that indicated negative. 600 ships against our 800. Let them come. We'll crush this upstart species and teach the galaxy what happens when primitives challenge their betters. The Caldrec's fleet moved to intercept, forming elegant battle formations perfected over centuries. Human commanders responded with ruthless efficiency. "Don't pursue their warships directly," Chen ordered. "Target their infrastructure. I want every supply depot, every fuel station, every repair facility destroyed. Cut them off." "Ma'am, that will take months," an officer noted. "Good," Chen replied. "Let them watch. Let them see what's coming." The human fleets spread across Caldrec's space like a plague. They didn't fight big battles, they fought small ones constantly. A supply convoy here, a communication station there. They used hit-and-run tactics, ambushes, and tricks that warfare historians would have recognized from Earth's ancient conflicts. The Caldrecs tried to respond, but found themselves fighting ghosts. Human ships would appear, attack, and vanish before reinforcements could arrive. They used every advantage, hacking communication systems and broadcasting the names of dead colonists on every frequency. They used psychological warfare, forcing Caldrec's crews to watch their supply lines crumble. In another sector, high above Earth's orbit, defensive weapons fired as Ethan commanded precise energy strikes. Precise beams struck 3 invading cruisers, disabling their propulsion systems without destroying the ships. The alien vessels hung dead in space. Similar scenes played out across Earth orbit. The opposing confederation had expected quick capitulation. Instead, they faced a coordinated defense using technology they hadn't known humans possessed. On the Confederation command ship, Ambassador Israel watched in growing horror as reports flooded in. 17 of their vessels were disabled with only minor damage to Earth's defenses. "How is this possible?" he demanded. Their technological level was assessed at barely interplanetary. A junior officer approached nervously. "Ambassador, we have a situation. The Araxian diplomat Salter is requesting asylum with the humans." Israel's eyes widened. Meanwhile, Olivia Bennet had been confined to her quarters on the Confederation ship. The door slid open, and Salter rushed in, his 4 eyes darting nervously. "Captain Bennet, we must hurry," he urged. Years before these conflicts reached their peak, an envoy named Yara walked out of the Crystal Hall, down the long corridor, through the wide glass doors, and into the cold white light of Verith Prime's pale sun. Her aide, a young man named Corporal Denzel Carr, was waiting for her outside. He was 24 years old, and he still believed that things could change. She could see it in the way he looked at her when she came out, that small, hopeful tightening of his face. She shook her head once. His face fell. "Same reason?" he asked. "Same reason," she said. "We are children. Children do not get weapons." They walked to the transport together in silence. On the flight back to the Compact's transit hub, Yara sat alone in a small cabin and read through the briefing again. The outer rim signals, the pattern analysis, the projections. She had read it all so many times that she could close her eyes and see the numbers without looking at the page. The thing out there had been moving inward for at least 8 years. It was moving slowly, but with absolute purpose. 3 compact sensor buoys had gone dark in the past year, not damaged, not malfunctioning, just gone, clean disappearances, as if something had simply removed them from existence. The Compact's own intelligence division had a name for the source of the signals. They called them the Nullborn. Nobody knew exactly what the Nullborn were. The Compact's best analysts believed they were some kind of collective intelligence, not a single creature, but a vast network of connected units that all shared the same mind. They moved together, acted together, thought together, and from what the data suggested, they did not communicate with other species. They did not negotiate, they did not stop. The elder races of the Compact had been warned about this for years. Yara had included the Nullborn data in every one of her 17 petitions, but each time the Council had acknowledged the information and then set it aside. When she addressed her crew, she told them the truth. "The Compact has lost another fleet," she said. "The Nullborn are no longer at the edge of known space, they are moving inward. At their current rate of advance, they will reach core Compact worlds inside 2 years, possibly less." She paused and looked at the faces in front of her. "The elder races are still arguing about command structure," she said. "They are still filing reports, holding meetings, and debating doctrine. They will eventually put together a response force, and it may be a very good one, but it may not be enough. And if it is not enough, the Compact's remaining worlds will have nothing standing between them and something that has already destroyed everything sent against it. Except us." Nobody spoke. "The Prometheus is not ready to take on the Nullborn alone," she said. "I'm not going to pretend otherwise, but she will be ready in 4 weeks, and when she is ready, we sail." In the aftermath of the great galactic wars that followed, damaged human ships were repaired and restocked. New soldiers arrived from Earth to replace those who had fallen. The human fleet, battered but unbroken, prepared for the final stand. Ambassador Telvos came to see Admiral Chen before the fleet departed. She stood in his office, her crystal body shimmering with nervous light. "Admiral," she said, "I must ask you something. The battle ahead will be terrible. You will lose many of your people. Why do you continue? You have already done more than we ever asked. You have liberated dozens of worlds. You have saved millions of lives. Why risk everything in one final assault?" Chen considered the question for a long moment, then spoke. "When I was a young officer, my grandfather told me a story. He said that when he was a boy, there was a terrible war on Earth. Millions of people were killed, cities were destroyed, the world almost ended. And when it was over, people said never again. They said they would never let something like that happen again. He paused, but it did happen again until we learned the price of inaction." When asked what payment humanity expected for its massive sacrifices, Chen looked at Telvos. "We don't need payment for that," he said. "We don't want monuments, territories, or wealth. We just want to know that we did the right thing, that the people we saved are living good lives, that the darkness we pushed back will not return. That's what we ask for, just that, nothing more. Telvos felt tears forming in her crystal eyes. Your species is extraordinary, she said quietly. We're just human, Chen replied. For better or worse, that's all we are. In the months that followed, the galaxy began to rebuild. The species that had been subjugated returned to their home worlds. Some found ruins, others found nothing at all, but they did not despair. Engineers from Earth designed new cities, doctors from Earth treated the wounded, and teachers from Earth opened schools. Marcus Cole, a veteran sergeant in the United Terran Expeditionary Force, settled on a rebuilt world. He ran a repair shop and spent his days fixing machines. An adopted daughter named Sarah went to school and began to heal. One evening, watching the sunset, Sarah asked him a question. Father, do you ever regret coming here, leaving Earth fighting in the war? Marcus thought about the friends he had lost, the horrors he had seen, and the nightmares that still woke him up. No, he said finally, I don't regret it. Why not? Sarah asked. You lost so much. Marcus looked at her growing tall, her crystal body glowing with soft colors. Because of you, he said. Because of all the people like you who are alive today, because we came when you needed us. Decades passed, then centuries. Humans spread across the galaxy, building homes on 1,000 worlds. They made friends with countless species, traded, learned, and grew. A new proverb spread through the stars, passed from generation to generation. Pray you never need the Deathwielders, but if darkness comes, pray they answer. On a rebuilt colony world called New Hope, an old human man watched a memorial ceremony on his screen. He was gray now, his body worn by age. Beside him sat a Valoran woman, her crystal body glowing softly while her children ran through the garden outside. Grandfather, one of them called. Tell us the story again. Tell us about the war. Marcus Cole smiled, an old smile full of memories painful and precious. Come here, he said. Sit down. Let me tell you about Commander Vasquez and the 200. Let me tell you about the day the humans answered the call. The children gathered around him, their faces bright with wonder. He told them about the signal that went out into the darkness, about the humans who heard it and answered, about battles fought, friends lost, and a galaxy saved. He told them what it meant to be human, to fight for the innocent, to protect the weak, and to never, ever give up. Years earlier, during the initial re-emergence, Administrator Yura Ashwaring of Station Ashfall had faced the initial approach of human representatives. If someone from this station is going to walk aboard a human warship and ask it what it wants after 20,000 years of silence, I think it should be me, Yura had said. Doran, her young technician, had requested to accompany her. I have studied the old records more than anyone else on this station. I might be useful, he had said. Yura had agreed, leading the small delegation aboard the human flagship, the Second Light. Captain Ren Kestrel met them in a briefing room designed to accommodate alien envoys comfortably. 20,000 years ago, Kestrel began, humanity fought a war unlike anything this galaxy had seen before. We called our enemy the Hollow. The display shifted, showing a spreading dark stain consuming stars, planets, and entire civilizations. The Hollow was not a species in the way you understand the term, Kestrel continued. It was closer to a consuming force spreading from world to world, converting everything it touched into more of itself. It did not negotiate, it did not stop. Entire civilizations vanished in the span of a few generations. We fought it for 300 years. In the end, humanity was the species that held the line. When independent verification teams scanned the sector, an alien scientist named Korv stared at the data in horror. By the ancestors, Korv whispered. Administrator, this is real. Whatever it is consuming matter and energy on a scale I have never seen recorded anywhere. Entire planetary systems reduced to nothing. The captain was not exaggerating. If anything, he understated the danger. Yura immediately opened a private channel to the second light. Captain Kestrel, our teams have confirmed your reports. I am recommending immediate diplomatic and military alignment. In another sector, Subcommander Eurus of the Volanthi hegemony felt the weight of history as she prepared for a diplomatic mission. I will not fail, Eurus told her High Counselor. I will find a way to save our people, whatever it takes. The hegemony had ruled for 12 millennia, but now their survival depended on understanding human strength. On board the diplomatic vessel Voice of Peace, Eurus reviewed data detailing past human conflicts. She noted how the Drell Collective had tried to plot against human colonies. The humans didn't respond with war, they simply cut the Drell off from the galactic economy. Within 6 months, the Drell Collective collapsed into internal chaos. She noted the Synth Unity, a civilization of artificial intelligences who believed their machine minds could hack human Titan systems. The human Titan Hephaestus neutralized their entire network in a single day, suspending their consciousness until they agreed to negotiate. And she noted the Void Callers, a cult civilization that worshipped death and attacked human colonies hoping to provoke annihilation. They got their wish. The Void Callers no longer existed, not a single ship, colony, or survivor. They were the only species humans had utterly destroyed, and only after all other options were exhausted. 4 species, 4 civilizations that chose defiance over peace, Eurus reported to her council. 3 are broken, 1 is extinct. In every case, humanity's defensive power was absolute. She then showed green areas on the galactic map. The Voran Trade Federation's economy grew by 40% after opening trade with human colonies. The Kelith Collective received human medical technology that cured 3 incurable diseases. The Mara Assembly doubled its food production using human agricultural techniques. The humans do not conquer, Eurus told the council. They offer friendship, trade, and cooperation. They share knowledge freely and protect their allies. I have spent a year studying humanity, and I have come to believe they are not our enemies. Later, standing with Admiral Chen under the twilight sky of Earth, Eurus reflected on the past. I was wrong, she admitted. You have shown me a better truth. What truth is that? Chen asked. That the strongest thing in the universe is not the power to destroy, Eurus said. It is the choice not to use it. Chen smiled. Perhaps you are not the only ones capable of wisdom. Eurus returned the smile. Perhaps not, but you were the first, and for that, the galaxy owes you a debt. Decades earlier, before the world knew of deep space fleets, Dr. Layla Ahmed had been working at an Antarctic research station when a metallic object fell from the sky. She was a young physicist studying faint radio signals. That discovery had launched Earth's orbital defense program, leading to systems like the Aegis grid. Years later, when alien hunter drones attacked, human pilot Marcus Hale led fighter wings into battle alongside orbital platforms. The Aegis grid fired precise beams of focused energy, guided by an artificial system that had spent 18 years learning to predict enemy movements. 6 drones were destroyed in the opening seconds, caught in overlapping fire. The defensive grid held, proving that Earth was far from defenseless. And on the watchtower, an isolated border post, Enan Mara Cole had sat watching empty screens for 6 months. When 12 unknown warships approached the Terran line, she sent the standard warning, "You are approaching restricted Terran space. Turn back now." When the fleet ignored the warnings, Terran defense forces materialized, forcing the intruders to retreat without firing a single shot. History had shown that humanity's leaders always understood the delicate balance of power. Decades earlier, when the Valkyrie Combine first made contact, Admiral Chen had warned the Council, "They are testing us. If we agree to unfair terms, they will see us as weak. If we refuse too strongly, they may see us as a threat. We must walk a careful line." That careful line created a legacy of strength, restraint, and unity. Following the resolution of major galactic conflicts, formal treaties established Earth as an independent power. News of humanity's victory and diplomatic integrity sent ripples throughout the galaxy. Inspired by humanity's example, smaller species began pursuing their own independence, reshaping galactic politics for millennia. Universities across Earth established new departments dedicated to xenolinguistics, comparative history, and interspecies diplomacy. Museums dedicated to the history of the Long Watch opened, allowing citizens to honor 3 generations of quiet work. The galaxy learned that true strength is not measured by the willingness to destroy, but by the unshakable resolve to protect. If you value stories of honor, patience, and ultimate protection, subscribe now and share this narrative with fellow wanderers among the stars. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more incredible stories. Hit the bell icon to stay updated on our latest uploads.